Good morning, dear students. Welcome to another class on popular literature and culture. So, today we are continuing with our series of videos on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And if you have watched my previous video, you will know that we have already discussed the author and the book and the importance of the Harry Potter books in popular literature and culture and everything. And we also have finished about discussing about 25% of the book in the last video, which was about 1 hour long. So in this video, we will be continuing from where we stopped. So if you haven't watched that video, I advise you to go and watch that video and come to this video. So till now, we met our central character, Harry Potter, an 11-year-old boy who lives with his uncle and aunt in England, in Surrey, England. And on his 11th birthday, he discovers that he is actually magical. He's a wizard. His parents, who he believed died in a car crash, were indeed killed by a dark wizard named Voldemort. He's visited by this giant character named Rubius Hagrid, and he's given an invitation to join Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And ignoring the pleas of his uncle and aunt, Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley to get all the stuff, all the material that is needed for his school year. And before leaving, Hagrid gives Harry a ticket, a train ticket to go to Hogwarts on 1st September. That is till we discussed. So, in the sixth chapter, the journey from platform 9 and 3/4, we see that Harry, after his day shopping for his school supplies with Hagrid, he has been spending one more uneventful month with the Dursleys. In comparison, it has been a very boring month, but it has been peaceful too because the Dursleys, especially Dudley, has been really scared of Harry. Because Dudley, if you remember from the last video, Dudley has got a pigtail now, which Hagrid gave to him. So Dudley actually keeps away from Harry for now. So most of his time he's spending in his room now. He's mostly in companionship with his new owl, who he named Hedwig. And he's also spending a lot of time reading the school books he had purchased. So he spends time like that, and on the last day of August, the next day he has to go to Hogwarts. He decided to talk to his uncle. So he comes down and he talks to his uncle Vernon. He asks him if he can get a ride to King's Cross Station, which is in London, and they live in Surrey. So the man agrees, but he says, so when is your train? Harry says, my train is at 11 o'clock. It's from platform number 9 and 3/4. Now, Vernon sneers at Harry because he knows that there is no platform. No, there's no such platform like platform number 9 and 3/4. But anyway, he decided to drop Harry off at the station, mainly because he has to go to London for Dudley's surgery. Dudley's pigtail has to be removed at the hospital. So the next day, Harry gets up really early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. He's so excited to go off to this magical school. He can't even sleep. So he gets ready. He gets all his stuff ready. He brings it down. And the family takes Harry off to the station. And he expects them to ride off after dropping him off. But Uncle Vernon actually brings his luggage to the platform number 9 and 10. And to Harry's dismay, he sees that there is no such platform like platform number 9 and 3/4. Uncle Vernon was right. And Uncle Vernon, without even saying anything, he just says goodbye and leaves Harry. Maybe his plan was that, to leave Harry and just let him figure out whatever it is and come back home later, having figured out that this whole thing was a joke. Anyway, Harry's frantically trying to find this platform because there's only 10 more minutes for his train to start. And he frantically asks a guard, a train guard, a railway station guard is there. He goes to the guard and asks, where is this particular platform number 9 and 3/4? And this guard feels like this boy, this weird looking boy with an owl and a lot of weird stuff in his trolley, he's actually making fun of him. So he also goes off and he's almost getting really panicked at the time. And at that moment, he notices a family of four boys and a girl. They have their mother with them. They all are very peculiar looking. They have red hair They all have freckles on their faces. And he overhears the mother say muggles. Now, muggle is a word he learned from Hagrid, because Hagrid had taught him that word. Muggle is a word which means any non magical people. That is what magical people call non magical people. Anyway, this catches Harry's attention. He follows them and he watches them close behind, and he sees that the first three boys, the oldest boys, they all like make fun of each other, and they just vanish into the divide between platforms 9 and 10. So there is a barrier between platform 9 and 10, and they just seem to just go into the barrier and vanish. And Harry quickly approaches the rest of the family, that is, a mother, the girl, and the youngest brother. He asks for help. He wants to get into the platform. He doesn't know how it is. And the mother seems like a very kind lady. She introduces him to the youngest brother, that is Ron. She says that Ron is also starting his first year in school. Now, Ron, he's a tall, thin boy. He also has freckles. He has red hair. He has big hands and feet, and he has a long nose. It is his first year in Hogwarts, too. So, anyway, the mother, a kind lady, she gives instructions to Harry. She says that all he has to do is take his luggage and walk straight through the barrier between platform 9 and 10, as if there is no wall. Harry is at first a little doubtful. He feels sure that he is going to crash into the barrier. But anyway, even though he is doubtful, he successfully manages to do the same. He successfully gets to platform number 9 and 3 quarters. Now he is at a new platform. He sees a scarlet colored steam engine. It is waiting in the platform, ready to go to Hogwarts, and the platform itself is packed with a lot of people. He sees a lot of families who are seeing off their children to the school, and he sees a lot of odd people, like he sees a grandmother um, uh, quarreling with a grandson or instructing the grandson, and he sees friends reunited after the summer holidays and all. And anyway, he goes off. He's actually really nervous at this time, but anyway, he finds a compartment, and he's struggling to get his heavy luggage into the train. And the brothers he saw earlier, the twin brothers, Fred and George Weasley, now they come to help put his luggage in the train, and they are quite astonished to realize that he is Harry Potter. So, as Hagrid had mentioned, Harry Potter is very famous in the wizarding world. So, Fred and George Weasley recognize him, and they're quite astonished to know his identity. And anyway, they put him in the train and they help him and all. And then they go back to their family to say goodbye. And now, from his compartment, he's in a lone compartment. There's nobody else with him, and he watches the Weasley family bidding farewell to each other. Like, it's Ron's first year, so the mother is quite emotional about it, and the brothers all make fun of each other, especially the oldest brother, Percy. He's actually been made prefect of their house, and all summer he has been boasting about his new role as prefect of Hogwarts. So he sees the exchange between the family. Now, maybe Harry feels longing at this time because he came on his own. He doesn't have a family to see him off to the school. Anyway, the train starts, and Harry watches through the train window. The mother and the little girl in the Weasley family, they disappear as the train started. So Harry, the train has started, and the youngest boy in the family, that is Ron Weasley or Ronald Weasley, he joins him in the compartment because he asks permission if he can sit here because everywhere else is occupied. So they make acquaintance with each other. He introduces himself as Harry Potter, and now Ron cannot stop staring at Harry's scar. He says, "Is that true? Do you really have a scar?" And Harry shows the scar. So they both exchange stories. Ron asks Harry how it is living with the Muggles. He says that it is not that great, and Harry asks how it is living with brothers. Like, he already saw three brothers, but Ron says that he actually has five older brothers. He's the sixth brother. His older brothers are all like people of great accomplishment. Like the oldest brother Bill, he was a head boy. The second brother, Charlie, he was a captain of the Quidditch team. Percy has now been made prefect. And Fred and George, the twin brothers, they are really funny and boisterous. Even though they are quite weird, they really do get good marks in Hogwarts. So he's the sixth brother to go to Hogwarts, and he has a long line of brothers to live up to. And Ron also reveals that he has a pet. He has a pet rat. It's a very old rat, a fat gray rat. Its name is Scabbers. It is not even his own. It belonged to Percy, and now that Percy has been made the prefect, he got a new owl, and he unknowingly reveals that his family cannot afford to buy a new owl. Then he feels ashamed of himself for revealing the poverty of his family. Now Harry truly understands this because just a month before, he did not know that his parents had left him a great fortune in Gringotts Bank. So he understands Ron's plight and plight about the family being poor. Now, Harry again voices concern. He says that I did not even know that I was a wizard like 1 month back. So he's voicing concern whether he'll be. It will be very hard for him to adjust, and he's too ignorant of the ways of the magical world. And at this point, Harry actually says Voldemort's name, which shocks Ron. Then again, you have to remember that nobody has the nerve to say Voldemort's name. He is always referred to as you know who, or he who must not be named, or Dark Lord by some people. Anyway, Ron consoles him, saying that it's not just you. Many people actually come from Muggle families. Many people don't even have a wizard or witch in the family. They belong to Muggle parents and they learn quickly. So you will be able to adapt quickly. So the train has now moved out of London. They are now going in between fields now. They are watching cows and all kinds of animals grazing in these fields. It's about noon time. It's past noon, and Harry hadn't had any breakfast. And a woman comes in through the in the train. She's pulling a trolley. She's selling snacks, and Harry feels really hungry, and he buys all kinds of strange snacks from this lady. And Ron says that he has some sandwiches his mother packed, but those sandwiches don't look that good. They have been packed really early in the morning, and it's actually really dry. Now Harry really wants to share the snacks with Ron, and he doesn't even know what kind of snacks these are. He expected like Mars bars and all, but these are really strange magical snacks. Now Ron familiarizes Harry with these snacks. He says that some things are like Bertie Bott's every flavor beans. These are beans in every possible flavor on earth. Some even taste like vomit. Then Drooble's best blowing gum, chocolate frogs. Now chocolate frogs are chocolate shaped in the form of a frog. They actually move about, as you might have seen in the movie. But with the chocolate frog, you can actually get a collectible card. The card is about famous witches and wizards in the world. And in addition, there are other things like pumpkin pasties, cauldron cakes, licorice wands, and a lot of such strange items. And Ron says that he has actually got a huge collection of cards already from frogs. And Harry notices that he got the card of Albus Dumbledore. He looks at it. He sees that Albus Dumbledore has silver hair, and there is a description about Albus Dumbledore behind the card and all. But the second time he looks at the card, the picture or the image of Albus Dumbledore has disappeared. Now they notice that the train is moving past woods, twisting rivers, and dark green hills. And they're talking with each other. They are having snacks and they are talking with each other. Then a sad looking first year boy interrupts them. He asks whether they have seen his lost toad. So in the list of things to bring to Hogwarts, a pet was it was not mandatory, but any first year child can actually bring a pet. It could be a pet cat, owl, rat, or toad. Now this boy has lost his toad, but they haven't seen the toad anyway. And this boy is Neville Longbottom. So later, Ron says, I have my brother Fred taught me a spell. I'll try to turn my rat into yellow color. Now he tries to do the magic, and at this point of time, a girl and the toddler's boy Neville Longbottom enters. The girl introduces herself as Hermione Granger. She's also a first year student. And she seems to be a really bossy girl. She has a very bossy voice. And when she realizes that this is Harry, because Harry introduces himself, she says that she has read all about Harry in some magical books, like modern magical history and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Now, this is new to Harry. He didn't know that he has been mentioned in some magical books already. He hasn't read anything about himself anyway. Now, this girl looks like she's actually quite a bookworm. She likes reading through the books and all. So, and anyway, this girl is talking on and on non-stop. She discusses houses, various houses in the in the school. Like she says that she doesn't want to be in Slytherin house. She says maybe she'll be in Ravenclaw because she's quite brainy. She's quite clever. That is when Harry has heard about this house thing before either. Also, anyway, Hermione makes fun of Ron when Ron's spell to change the rat into yellow doesn't work. Then again, Hermione and Neville exit from there. So the boys, Harry and Ron, are talking again. They discuss about the recent attempt by somebody to rob the Gringotts bank, the very same bank Hagrid and Harry had gone in the previous chapter. Ron was reading about this robbery attempt in Daily Prophet. He says that nothing was actually stolen because the vault this thief was trying to get into was already empty. So now they turn to discuss about Quidditch. Harry is talking to Ron about Quidditch. Quidditch is actually a magical game like football. Now, at this point of time, three boys enter the compartment. One of them, Harry had already met in the robe shop, and they make acquaintance. This boy introduces himself as Draco Malfoy. He seems like a very bad natured person who makes fun of everybody, and the two other boys with him are Crab and Goyle. Crab and Goyle, they are quite like thick, and they almost look like his bodyguards to Draco Malfoy. And Draco Malfoy instantly makes fun of Ron Weasley. He recognizes that this is a Weasley kid based on his appearance. He has red hair, he has freckles, and he looks really poor. So he makes fun of Weasley being poor. Now this makes Harry really angry, and Draco suggests that you should be friends with me, not with the likes of him. Now Harry says that I can make my own friends. Now the Draco and the other boys are not so happy with Harry's attitude. Now they decide to bully them and take their food. They move to take food from them, but at that moment, Scabbers the rat bites one of the boys, and now the boy is writhing in pain, and the other boys escape from here. At this point of time, Hermione Granger comes back again. She is wearing the school robes, and she tells Harry and Ron, you better wear the robes. We are almost reaching Hogwarts, so you won't have time to change into your school uniform. At about the same time, they hear the announcement from the train saying that they'll be reaching Hogwarts in 5 minutes. Now the train is slowing down. It stopped in a station. Now they get down. All the students get down in a tiny dark platform. And Harry heard a familiar voice. The voice is Hagrid calling out to the first years. He's calling the first years to follow him. Now, all the first years form a line and they are walking behind Hagrid down a narrow path. And the first years reach a great black lake. And there are a lot of small boats there. In one boat, four students can sit comfortably. So he shares a boat with Ron, Neville, and Hermione. And the boat, without the need of a rowman or a boatman, it is going smoothly gliding across the lake. And now they are going through an dark tunnel. Before they go to the dark tunnel, they catch sight of the magnificent great castle that is Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Now the boat is taking them through a dark tunnel to an underground harbor. This is somewhere inside Hogwarts, and they get out and they walk again they reach a huge door. This huge door is the entrance to Hogwarts Castle. Now, Hagrid knocked on this huge door 3 times. That is the end of chapter 6. I'd like to read you a quote from chapter 6. So, this is actually the description about Albus Dumbledore in the card which Harry got from the chocolate frog. Albus Dumbledore, currently headmaster of Hogwarts, considered by many the greatest wizard of modern times, Professor Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the dark wizard Grindelwald in 1945, for the discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood, and his work on alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Professor Dumbledore enjoys chamber music and ten-pin bowling. Now, before we even meet Dumbledore in the present time, we already met him in chapter 1. But before we meet Albus Dumbledore, we get a nice little introduction about the current headmaster of Hogwarts. We get the feeling that although he's quite accomplished in the magical world, he's quite simple and even a little crazy. So that is the idea we get about Albus Dumbledore reading his card. Chapter 7 is The Sorting Hat. Now the students have reached the castle door, and the door is swung open and they see Professor McGonagall. She's a very stern looking witch. She receives the first years, she takes them over, she guides them to a big entrance hall. The entrance hall is lit with torches and a high ceiling. It has 2 flights of stairs leading upstairs, and she walks them into a small empty chamber near a great hall. They can already hear voices coming from the next room, so they surmise that all the students are already gathered in the great hall. Now Professor McGonagall gives them some instructions. She says that they are going to start the start of term banquet. Before the banquet, these first years will be sorted into their houses, and when they are in the houses, the house will be like a family within Hogwarts. And the 4 houses, now we see the 4 houses. The 4 houses are Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. And when they are in their house, whenever they get some triumphs, they will be earning points for their houses. And when they break rules, they will lose points from the house points. And at the end of the year, the house with the greatest number, the most points, they will be awarded a prestigious house cup. So now the students are waiting for the sorting ceremony to begin. At the same time, they see about 20 ghosts. The ghosts are sliding and streaming. They are pearly white. They are slightly transparent. They come to talk to the new students and they are talking to each other. Some of the ghosts they meet are Fat Friar, Bloody Baron, Nearly Headless Nick, etc. Now, Professor McGonagall, she had gone for a second. She comes back again. She guides the students now to the Great Hall. Now, the Great Hall has a magnificent view. This is really huge. It is lit by thousands and thousands of candles. These candles are floating mid-air, and there are 4 long tables in the hall. Students are already seated there, and there is another table at the top of the hall that is for the teachers. And when they look up at the ceiling looks like a never ending sky. It looks velvety black sky dotted with stars. Now, Hermione Granger, who is a bookworm, she says that she has read on a history of Hogwarts, a history, that book that this ceiling is actually bewitched using magic to look like the sky outside. Now, Professor McGonagall starts a sorting ceremony. She places a four-legged stool in front of the first years. And on top of the stool, she places a pointed wizard's hat. It is an old hat, patchy, frayed, and extremely dirty. The hat twitches and turns, and suddenly a rip occurs near at the brim of the hat. It's like a mouth, and suddenly the hat starts to sing a song. The song is about the students being sorted into different houses, and the hat also sings about the qualities of each house. According to the hat, all the brave and chivalrous students will go to Gryffindor house. All the just and loyal people to Hufflepuff. All the wise souls who has wit and learning, they will go to Ravenclaw, and the cunning folk will go to Slytherin. At the end of the song, the students were called in alphabetical order, and they were each were placed seated on the stool, and the hat was placed on their head, and the hat called out their house names. Now, Hermione and Neville has already joined Gryffindor house. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle has gone to Slytherin, and some has gone to other houses too. And Harry's chance finally came. As he put on the hat started talking to him. Nobody else can hear the conversation between him and the hat. Now, the hat is analyzing his mind. The hat says that his mind has a lot of courage, he has talent, and he has a thirst to prove himself. But Harry pleads the hat not to put him in Slytherin house. Now the hat finally has made the decision, and it puts him in Gryffindor house. Now all the Gryffindor students stand up and applaud, and they welcome him to their house. And to his joy, Ron also later joins Gryffindor. After the sorting ceremony, he is seated at the table. He notices the teachers in the top table. He notices Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster, Professor Quirrell, whom he had already met in Diagon Alley, and some other teachers. And among the teachers, he notices that there is a teacher who has a greasy black hair, hook nose, and sallow skin. He looked at Harry with great dislike. And while he's looking, he's actually, Professor Quirrell is turned his way. He's talking to Professor Quirrell, and this particular professor looks at Harry past Quirrell's turban. Professor Quirrell has a turban. Now, as he looks at him, Harry feels a sharp pain across his scar. Now, this teacher, Percy told him, was Professor Snape, who is the potions master and the head of Slytherin house. Now, after a short, funny speech by Albus Dumbledore, they find a scrumptious feast appear on the table. It includes a lot of items like roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops, lamb chops, sausages, bacon and steak, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, chips, Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, gravy, ketchup, and for some strange reason, mint humbugs. And after they ate it all, for the first time, Harry is having such a wonderful feast. He was never underfed, never starved at the Dursley house, but he was severely underfed. So after that, desserts came. Desserts like ice cream, apple pies, treacle tarts, chocolate eclairs, jam donuts, trifle, strawberries, jelly, rice pudding, etc. Now after the dessert, now the newly sorted housemates, the first year Gryffindors, they discuss with each other. He meets his friends like Seamus Finnegan. He says that he's half and half. His father is a muggle, mother is a witch. Neville Longbottom says that he lives with his grandmother. Hermione says that her parents are muggles. Actually, they don't have any relation to magic. They also meet other people like Lavender Brown and Dean Thomas at this point of time, who all are in Gryffindor. And after the dessert, Professor Dumbledore stands up and he gives some important instructions. He instructs the first years not to go into the forbidden forest. And the second instruction is no magic should be performed in the corridors in between classes. Third instruction is the third floor corridors are out of bounds for people who, if they go there, they will encounter a painful death. And the fourth instruction is that Quidditch trials will be starting next week. So after that, everybody stands up and sings the Hogwarts song. They all sing in different tunes at the same time. And after that, they all go to their respected common rooms, house common rooms for bedtime. And now the Gryffindors march behind Percy, who is the prefect. They go up the marble staircase, and they pass many doorways, sliding panels, more staircases. There are a lot of staircases in Hogwarts. And on the way, they even meet a naughty and rude poltergeist named Peeves. Peeves is a very naughty ghost who plays pranks on people. And after that, finally, they end up in front of a big portrait. This portrait is that of a fat lady. She is dressed in a pink silk dress at the end of a corridor. So the lady asks for a password. The password is given by Percy, and the portrait swings forward. There is a round hole in the wall, and through this hole, they enter into a cozy room. This is the Gryffindor common room, and it has a lot of armchairs for people to rest and all. Now they are guided to their dormitories. At the boys' dorm, they find that there are five four-poster beds. The poster beds are decorated with deep red velvet curtains, and they are all really tired after the journey and after the sorting and everything, and the first years soon sleep off. Harry dreams some dreams, but he doesn't remember when he gets up. So that is the end of seventh chapter, the sorting hat. Let's see a quotation from this chapter. The sorting is a very important ceremony because while you are here, your house will be something like your family within Hogwarts. You will have classes with the rest of the house, sleep in your house dormitory, and spend free time in your house common room. Now, this is actually a part of the instructions given to them by Professor McGonagall at first. The eighth chapter is The Potions Master. So this chapter happens throughout the next week, the first week of Harry in Hogwarts. Now he is getting acquainted with Hogwarts school, the classes, his fellow students, the teachers, and everything. And he discovers that there are about 142 moving staircases in Hogwarts, and there are at every turn he can see gliding goats. And he meets the surly caretaker of Hogwarts, who is Argus Filch, and he has a nasty cat named Mrs. Norris. And he learns that they have to learn a lot of magical subjects like astronomy, herbology, which is taught by Professor Sprout, history of magic taught by Professor Binns, who's actually a ghost himself, charms, a nice little subject taught by a nice little professor named Professor Flitwick. Defense against dark arts, which is taught by Professor Quirrell. They all were looking forward to this lesson, but actually it was quite dull and bad. Transfiguration, that was a very interesting subject taught by Professor McGonagall. They are actually taught to transform one thing into another in this particular class. And in every class, actually, you notice that Hermione Granger is standing out as a really brilliant student. So we experience the different aspects of Hogwarts through Harry's eyes in this chapter. And on Friday, that is the last day of the school week, Gryffindors, they discover that they have double potion class with Slytherin. Now they have to go to the dungeons. That is where Professor Severus Snape is taking class for potions. Now Snape, he treats Harry with a lot of dislike and disdain. He takes every opportunity to put down Harry and to favor the students from um, Slytherin house like Malfoy. He seems to show a lot of favor to them. He asks Harry a lot of questions at first, but Harry is not familiar with any of these questions. Hermione Granger puts her hands up, but it is ignored by Snape. And he's put to shame. Harry is put to shame for being a celebrity. Being a celebrity doesn't mean you have knowledge, he says. So the potion making class was a disaster. After the question answer session, they start making a potion, and Neville melts his cauldron, and he has to go to the hospital wing for that too. And Harry also lost 2 points for no apparent reason at all. So, one saving grace about this day was that he had received a letter in the morning through an owl. It was an invitation from Hagrid. Hagrid had invited Harry to his house that afternoon. Now, Hagrid lives in a wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Now, Harry takes Ron to meet Hagrid. And at Hagrid's house, they meet Hagrid, and Hagrid has a big boarhound dog named Fang, and they discuss the school, the first week of school, and Harry shares his worry that the Professor Snape doesn't like him much. But this is brushed aside by Hagrid. You don't have to worry about stuff like that. Now they are eating some rock cakes and drinking tea and everything, and then Harry notices that Hagrid has a paper cutting. This paper cutting is about the break into Gringotts Bank. Now Harry reads the paper cutting and he realizes that the attempted robbery happened on the same day Harry and Hagrid visited the bank. Now Harry has certain doubts whether the target of this particular thief was vault number 713, because that vault was emptied out by Hagrid, and according to the news report, the a thief attempted to rob a vault which was emptied out on the same day. But Hagrid doesn't want to, doesn't seem too interested to discuss the topic further. So that brings us to the end of eighth chapter. There's a quote from each chapter. They had noticed that a funny smell hung around the turban. Now, this is actually a reference to the turban worn by Professor Quirrell. He always wears a purple turban, and a nasty smell comes from the turban. There's rumors that he actually has garlic inside it. Professor Quirrell, being really nervous and frightened of vampires, there is a rumor that he carries garlic inside this turban. Let's now discuss the ninth chapter in the book, The Midnight Duel. So, in the following days, Harry has more encounters with Slytherins and especially Draco Malfoy, and he developed a deeper hatred for Draco Malfoy more than he hated his own cousin Dudley. And this intensified after his flying lessons. It was a class by Madame Hooch, and this class was also shared with the Slytherin house. So when they went out into the grounds for the flying lesson, Malfoy was boasting about his broomstick skills. He was boasting like he has really good broomsticks at home and everything. And while everyone was really nervous about flying for the first time, Hermione, who had read about flying from books, she was sharing her bookish knowledge to others who were actually quite annoyed, except for Neville Longbottom. So that very morning, Neville Longbottom actually received a small parcel from his grandmother. So this parcel contained a particular item called remembrall. So this is a glass bowl the size of a large marble. It is usually filled with white smoke, but if the holder is forgetting something, it would the smoke would turn into red color. So that is remembrall. Remembralls are really expensive. So that afternoon, anyway, at the class, they go out to the grounds to find that there are 20 broomsticks laid out in neat lines on the ground. And Madam Hooch gives them some instructions. Everyone is a little nervous now. She advises them to stand on the side of the broomstick, hold out stick out their right hand over the broom and command up. Give the command up. Now Harry's broomstick, it jumped into his hand instantly as he commanded up. But some others like Hermione and Neville had some troubles, had some difficulties. Malfoy also, it was really easy for him as well. And later, Madam Hooch showed them how to mount the broom and how to hold it correctly and how to move it forward or move it sidewards and everything. And then she asked them to kick off from the ground and rise just a few feet and then come down. But Neville at this point was really nervous. He did not want to be left alone in the ground. And before Madam Hooch was ready for the whole class, Neville kicked off from the ground and he lost control of the broom completely. And he rose about 10 20 feet up. And then he slid off the broom, fell into the ground, and he had a broken wrist. Now, Madam Hooch has to take him to the hospital wing, and before going she warned the class not to fly in her absence, otherwise they will be expelled from the school. Now without the teacher, Malfoy is actually trying to create a scene there. He finds Neville's remembrall had fallen out of his pocket when he fell down. Now Malfoy gets hold of this remembrall and then he challenges Harry to come and follow him into the air and get it from him. Now, Hermione asks Harry not to be foolish. Like if he disobeys Madam Hooch, he will lose more points for Gryffindor. But Harry ignores all the pleas. He mounts the broom and he follows Harry. And he finds it quite natural. It is his first time in the air on a broomstick. But he finds it very natural and easy to fly the broomstick. And then Malfoy is also a little surprised at Harry's ease with which he is flying. Now Harry tries to knock Malfoy off. Now Malfoy is throwing the Remembrall away, and Harry is chasing the Remembrall, and he very impressively dives down 50 feet and catches the glass bowl before it could fall and break in the ground on the ground. And at the same moment, When Harry caught the ball and came on the ground, Madam McGonagall is heard calling, Harry Potter, come with me. Now, everyone is trying to explain that Harry was doing a good thing, but anyway, Professor McGonagall is really shocked and speechless that a first time flyer can be so good. But at the same time, she wants to give some kind of punishment for Harry for disobeying the command of a fellow teacher. Anyway, Harry feels like this is his last day in Hogwarts because he has broken the rule and he's sure that he is going to be expelled, and he's imagining the worst. He's following Professor McGonagall into the castle, and he's led through many corridors, and finally they end up in front of Professor Quirrell's classroom. And Professor McGonagall gets an older boy out of the classroom. This boy is fifth year student Oliver Wood. He is the captain of Gryffindor Quidditch team. And McGonagall informs Wood very impressively that she saw Harry flying and she saw Harry do something really impressive. Like he took a 50-foot dive and caught the Remembrall without breaking it and everything. And now she gives out a very unexpected news that Harry is the newest seeker of Gryffindor Quidditch team. Now, Harry at first is shocked, and later he goes to Ron and shares the news that he has been made the youngest seeker or the youngest Quidditch player in a century in the school's history. And Malfoy and his goons, Crabbe and Goyle, they expect the next day they expect that Harry will be punished and he'll be thrown out of the school. So they try to irritate him, and then Malfoy does something. He challenges Harry for a wizard's duel. Wizard's duel is kind of like a battle between two people, a battle with wands between two wizards, and in case one of them dies, another one has to take their place. Now Ron becomes Harry's second, and Crab becomes Malfoy's second. And now they make plans to meet at midnight on the same day in the trophy room. And Harry and Ron agree to this. And Hermione, she overhears the whole conversation. She comes to the boys and warns them, you must be fools to wander off at night on your own. You will lose more house points. But they ignore Hermione. So that night, Harry and Ron get up. They notice that Dean and Seamus are sleeping in their room. Neville Longbottom, however, he is not in the in the dormitory because he is still in the hospital wing for his broken wrist. Anyway, Ron and Harry sneak out of the dormitory. They find that to their surprise, that Hermione was actually waiting to stop them in the common room. She attempts to stop them, but the boys would not listen to her. But she follows them out of the common room. But by the time she gets out, she cannot come back into the common room because the fat lady from the portrait, she has gone away somewhere, and she doesn't want to be left alone out there, and she decides to go with the two boys. And on the way they bump into somebody. That was Neville, who was sleeping on the floor because he was supposed to come into the common room, but he forgot the password because Neville is quite forgetful like that. So the four of them, Neville is also too afraid to be left alone. The four of them go together to the trophy room. When they wait for Malfoy and Crabbe, but they never show up. They wait for a few minutes, but then in the next room they hear Mr. Filch, the caretaker, and Mrs. Norris, the cat. Now they have to hide from Mr. Filch and Mrs. Norris because they will be punished for wandering out in the dark. Now they creep down a gallery and then they meet Peeves. They get tricked by Peeves and they rush to escape Peeves and Filch and Mrs. Norris. They rush through a corridor and they open a door using magic. That magic is done by Hermione, and they reach this new corridor. They have escaped Filch successfully, but they are in a different dangerous situation now. They find themselves face to face with a three-headed fierce dog. Now in the movie, there is only three children here, but in the book, Neville is also present when they are face to face with this three-headed dog. It is very fierce. It has really fierce eyes, and saliva is coming out of three mouths. It has six eyes, It is really staring at the kids and trying to make a move, trying to catch hold of the kids. And they somehow they get out of the room and slam the door shut and rush back to the common room without being noticed by anybody. Now, before going to her dormitory, Hermione is really angry at the boys at this moment because they are the ones responsible for this rule break. Now, she very angrily says that you have not been noticing that the dog was standing on something. It was not just standing on the ground, you morons. It was standing on a trap door. The dog is definitely guarding something. Now, this makes Harry think, what could the dog be guarding? Harry thinks that it must be somehow related to the stuff Hagrid got from the vault number 713 in Gringotts Bank, because on that day Hagrid had told him that Gringotts was the safest place in the world except for Hogwarts. So if Hagrid removed something from Gringotts, it would be safely kept somewhere in Hogwarts. So Harry thinks that way. So I have a quote here for you. This is Harry's first feeling when he takes his first flight on the broomstick. Let me read it for you. He mounted the broom and kicked hard against the ground, and up he soared. Air rushed through his hair, and his robes whipped out behind him. And in a rush of fierce joy, he realized he had found something he could do without being taught. This was easy. This was wonderful. Now, this is a really exhilarating experience which Harry has in the magical world. The first time he feels like he's doing something he's meant to do. Uh, in all the other classes, he has self doubt. He doubtful that he's not prepared much for this magical life and all. But with flying, it comes very naturally and easily for him. That is mainly because Professor McGonagall also reveals this to Harry, that Harry's father, James Potter, was himself an excellent Quidditch player. So Harry is just following the footsteps of his father. So that's it for this lesson. I hope that you have enjoyed being with me throughout this video. We have now covered 50% of the book. Stay tuned for more videos in this lecture series. Thanks again for watching. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.